Leave nothing left unsaid. This is so much easier to say than do. My husband had a terminal diagnosis, and we were facing it for a number of years. He had alcohol-induced cirrhosis of the liver, and it is one of the trickier disease processes when it comes to predicting end of life. It's not like watching a cancer rapidly grow. There's a number of things where they could go sideways, and if they do, you're facing end of life much sooner than you thought. For example, hepatic encephalopathy, which would put Mark into these near coma states where for 3 weeks in a row he might sleep for 18 to 22 hours a day. And at any point, one of those 18 to 22 hour sleeps could turn into an actual coma that he wouldn't wake up from. And so every time that I was facing something like that, or pneumonia that looked like it was going to get the better of him, or a number of other things, I had a decision to make. Do I treat this like it's his end of life? Or do I just keep wishing in one hand and shitting in the other? Do I continue to carry on hoping that we have more days and living like we're going to continue to have more days? Or am I going to acknowledge that this might be the last time we have a chance to say something? I chose every single time I was really nervous and really wondering if this was the last time. I chose to say the really hard things. Hard things look different for everybody. Sometimes it's getting secrets out. We talk about deathbed confessions, and I think the reason that people wait until their last moments is because if you find you have time after you've said some really hard things to share with this other person, if there's moments after, you don't necessarily know what to do with it. You've been insanely vulnerable, more vulnerable than you ever thought you could be, more vulnerable than you thought you might want to be. And it can feel very awkward after you've said hard things because you and this other person have to do something with that truth once you've recovered. It can also look like, I love you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad I was your wife. I forgive you. There's a lot of things that do need to be said at end of life. A lot of things that we should be saying sooner. So when it came to over and over and over again staring death potentially in the face, I said uncomfortable things. And it was uncomfortable after, but I never regretted doing it. A lot of my peace in the time since Mark left has been in knowing that there isn't anything left unsaid. It's in not having regrets. It's in not wondering, did he know how much I loved him? He did. Did he know how proud I was of him? Yeah, he knew. We both said hard things. Sometimes if it's really, really too hard for you, I think it's good to start writing it down. I, after his trip to the hospital in 2018, began making notes for him. And I would put each note into a little picture frame and then rotate them out when I'd written another one. And over the course of about 699 days, not about, obviously, that's pretty accurate, I wrote about 200. And I said all the things that were really hard to get out. There's going to be a link in the description below for a gallery of those notes, because I think it's important to know what sort of things do you say. Yes, tell them you're scared. Yes, tell them you're going to miss them. Tell them you don't know how you're going to parent without them. You don't know how you're going to get through the next day without them. They're feeling it too. They really are. And it's important to make room for these hard things to be said. And it's important that you go first. Don't approach your grief and your mourning period with regrets. Not these kind of regrets. Not the kind of regrets that you don't have to have. There's always, if you're given the blessing of a terminal diagnosis, there is always time to say the really hard things. It is going to be uncomfortable. You have to work through that. Courage and bravery are not the absence of fear. They're doing those sorts of things even when you're afraid. There's always going to be a little bit of doubt when you're saying things. The more times that Mark and I did this, the more vulnerable we were, the easier it got, and the closer we got. Mark said once he wished we hadn't found love only when he was dying. And I said, no. We found out how great our love was because you are dying. It breathes a sense of urgency into the relationship when you're forced to say things that you might not have a chance to say again in the next few days or the next few weeks. You treat those moments differently. Be vulnerable. Be open. Say hard things.